Welcome mothers and fathers, family and friends. I am Cheryl Haggard and I am honored to welcome you to the NILMDTS Remembrance Walk. When a child loses his parent, they are called an orphan. When a spouse loses her or his partner, they are called a widow or widower. When parents lose their child, there isn't a word to describe them. These are the words of President Reagan in 1988 when he declared October Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. Today, we still do not have a word to call those of us who have lost a baby. We are gathered here today because we have been impacted by pregnancy and/or infant loss, and while there is not an adequate word to call this community, our hope is that today you will feel united with others who have walked this very difficult journey. Our hope is that you will not feel alone in your journey. Our hope is that you will find healing and peace in honoring your baby through this public remembrance ritual. In 2005, my husband and I were expecting our fourth child. We were having a boy, and we named him Maddox Achilles Haggard. Unbeknownst to us, he was born with a condition called myotubular myopathy, which prevented him from breathing or moving on his own. We spent 6 days in the NICU with questions that had no answers. And on the 6th day of his short life, my husband and I decided to remove him from life support. But before we did, I knew that I wanted something more of Maddox. I wanted his photographs to hang in our home alongside of our older children. And I had had my own digital camera with me at the hospital during those 6 days, but when I looked at those photographs that I had taken personally, all I saw were tears and sadness. That is when we decided to hire a professional photographer to come in and create special memories for us. Leaving the hospital on the 6th day of his life, after he had passed away, I left the hospital with empty arms, but with hope in my heart that I would see my son again through those photographs. And when I saw the photographs, I felt a sense of honor, I felt a sense of peace, and I knew that I created a legacy of our son Maddox to last for generations. In April of 2005 was when we got IRS approval to begin operating as a nonprofit for NILMDTS. I wanted parents to have photographs to bring healing to their heart and honor to their babies. I am pleased to introduce you to Billy and Sarah Lloyd performing In the Arms of an Angel.
Spend all your time waiting for that second chance, for a break that would make it okay. There's always some reason to feel not good enough, and it's hard at the end of the day. I need some distraction, oh beautiful release. Memories seep from my veins, let me be empty, oh and weightless, and maybe I'll find some peace tonight in the arms of the angel. Fly away from here, from this dark cold hotel room and the endlessness that fear. You are pulled from the wreckage of your silent reverie. You're in the arms of the angel. May you find some comfort here. So tired of the straight line, and everywhere you turn, there's vultures and thieves at your back. The storm keeps on twisting, keep on building the lies that you make up for all that you have. Don't make no difference. Escape one last time. It's easier comfort here. In the arms of the angel, may you find some comfort here.
Thank you, Billy and Sarah. We would not be able to conduct this walk without a number of instrumental volunteers. Musicians Billy and Sarah Lloyd in memory of Jeremiah Brage. Our remembrance readers Danielle Reeves in memory of Aidan Thomas Clark Reeves, James Marino in memory of Brooklyn K. Marino. We would like to thank our sponsor, MPICS. We would like to acknowledge the following teams who raised at least $500 on their tribute page. All the funds raised will go directly to serving families with remembrance portraits. These are families who at this moment likely do not know they will need Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep, but when they sadly do, you will help us be available to them. CMO, remembering Cameron Michael Orbert. In memory of Bethany, remembering Bethany Grace Peden and baby Peden. Team Phoenix G, remembering Phoenix Dwight Gravlin. Team Sadie Rose, remembering Sadie Rose Sizemore. The Brennan family, remembering Orania Barbara Brennan and Linus Augustine Brennan. Thank you to all teams. Every journey is unique, but what we have in common is that we are part of this pregnancy and infant loss community. We don't ask to be a part of this community, but we all are. In the midst of our grief, we reach for someone who can sit with us and understand. While no one can completely understand your individual journey, we still long for some understanding. Sometimes we find that friendship and sometimes we do not. For those of us who have made friendships in this community, it is a very special bond that cannot be broken. I would like to introduce you to Heidi Treibel and Ashley Glader. You may recognize them and their stories as they both graciously allowed us to share each of their blogs with our audience for the past couple of years. Heidi and Ashley will be telling their stories, which shared similar timelines, but then ultimately united them as friends.
November of 2016, I was a mom to 2 young kids, a daughter and a son. It was the day of the 20-week ultrasound of our 3rd baby, and I was excited to find out which gender our tiebreaker would be. We found out he was a boy, and we also found out that he had a missing left arm, a missing kidney, and possible heart and stomach issues. We left the ultrasound room shocked and devastated.
November 2016, I was a mom to 2 young girls. Earlier that year, I'd miscarried 2 precious babies, one in January and one in August, due to a condition called subchorionic hematoma. I'd held each of those babies after I'd miscarried them. I named them Avery and Everett. I wrapped them each in tiny crocheted blankets that I had made. I'd placed them each in tiny boxes that I called their caskets and buried them. That day in late November, I took a pregnancy test to find out I was pregnant again. I was numb. I wanted that baby with all my heart, and I was so afraid I'd miscarry again.
In January of 2017, we had named our son Joshua after the warrior in the Bible because we knew he was going to have to fight. I had an echocardiogram to check Joshua's heart. There were abnormalities, but the information given to me was inconclusive.
December 2016, I was 7 weeks pregnant and began bleeding heavily. I thought I was losing a 3rd baby. I went to a doctor's appointment to learn I had another subchorionic hematoma. Nearly every week I went to the doctor with heavy bleeding, thinking I was miscarrying, and every time our baby's heart was still beating strong. January 2017, fear turned into celebration when I learned we'd have a son. February 2017, I went to the emergency room at 13 weeks pregnant, having contractions and losing more blood than ever before, but our son was okay. It was like a miracle.
March 2017, I had a procedure to remove excess amniotic fluid. Doctors would then check the fluid for genetic abnormalities. That day I felt hopeful for answers that we never would get as to why our son had so many anomalies.
In March of 2017, I finally felt out of the woods as I approached 20 weeks gestation with our son, whom we'd named Elliot. I had had symptoms of miscarriage over a dozen times, yet my little boy continued to thrive.
I was 36 weeks pregnant at the time of my amniotic fluid procedure in March. I was happy we'd made it that far since doctors never indicated how far my pregnancy would go or if I'd carry Joshua to viability at all. My son was already a miracle.
March 2017, I went to my 20-week ultrasound expecting to see my healthy baby who had made it through 4 months of a horrible pregnancy. Instead, I saw that my amniotic sac had weakened due to all the months of bleeding from my subchorionic hematoma, and the fluid surrounding Elliot had blood in it. The doctor told me I was in danger of my water breaking. That night, I began leaking fluid but didn't know it.
March 23, 2017, Joshua was born at 38 weeks pregnant, almost on the way to the hospital in rush hour traffic. He came 30 minutes after we arrived at the hospital. He came out looking purple and the staff had to rush to get him breathing. After hospital staff got Joshua breathing, he was whisked off to the NICU, and oddly enough, I felt very at peace that night.
March 27, 2017, I found out my water had broken completely. I was only 21 weeks pregnant. They told me if I was still pregnant in 2 weeks, I would be admitted to the hospital to await his birth. I was convinced that we hadn't made it so far for nothing. I felt certain our Elliot would make it through this.
Early April 2017, a week after Josh was born, we found out that there was no eyeball under one of his eyelids and he would be partially or mostly blind. This was devastating news to absorb. However, we remained hopeful for Joshua's future.
April 9th, 2017. It was 1 day before I was supposed to be admitted to St. Joseph's Hospital, but I woke up that morning with heavy bleeding and more loss of amniotic fluid. I went to St. Joe's, where Elliot was checked on the ultrasound and was still doing well. I was admitted to the hospital to live there for an unknown amount of time. I was relieved to be in the care of trained medical staff.
The week of May 5th, when Joshua was 6 weeks old, he had surgery to have his feeding tube put in his stomach. He also had his eye cyst removed, and when they tried to remove his breathing tube, he couldn't breathe without it. They then realized he had an antibiotic-resistant bacteria illness that had collapsed on one of his lungs. That same week, we found out his trachea was incredibly narrow, and we learned he would need urgent surgery to fix it. He was transferred down to the pediatric intensive care unit.
Even though people visited and encouraged me, it felt like no one could experience carrying Elliot inside of them, every moment knowing his life was in danger.
Even though we had so much support with meals and gift cards from others, there was a loneliness that no one else really knew the trauma and the heartache in those 4 walls of his hospital room. It was a very isolating experience.
Week after week passed while I remained pregnant on hospital bed rest. My husband and daughters visited from our home an hour away a few times a week. It was a very stressful time for our family, but we knew when Elliot came home, it would all be worth it.
Week after week and day after day, my family and I visited Joshua in the hospital. Even when we weren't dealing with watching doctors perform CPR on our son or seeing him suffer in pain, it was hard. We drove 2 or more hours every day just to be with our son, all while trying to juggle our other 2 children under 4 years old at home. For the 79 days of Joshua's hospital stay,
for the 50 days I was on hospital bed rest,
the hospital became our home away from home. During Joshua's trachea surgery, his condition was so life-threatening, we wanted to be nearby, so we stayed at the Ronald McDonald House right across the street from St. Joe's.
During my long days of waiting in the hospital, I would look out my window and notice families going in and out of the Ronald McDonald House. Little did I know a future friend was there.
Mid-May, we thought it was smooth sailing after surgery, only to be woken up in the middle of the night to the news that the doctors had been performing CPR for 6 minutes due to a rare mishap.
Mid-May, I was 27 weeks pregnant and a friend was visiting me in the hospital for lunch. Elliot was on the heart monitor and his heart rate dropped drastically.
I thought I was going to lose him. For the next few weeks, Joshua improved dramatically and quickly. Finally, there was hopeful talk about bringing him home.
When I was 30 weeks pregnant, 10 weeks after my water had broken, I went into labor. Elliot's heart rate dropped dramatically again. I was rushed to an emergency C-section. Elliot William Tribal was born on May 29, 2017. I felt completely relieved. Even though the medical team could tell Elliot's lungs were small due to lack of fluid in my womb, he was stable. I was positive he would live.
2.5 months had passed in the hospital with our sweet boy. We had 8 specialist appointments scheduled, and we knew it was going to be a long road ahead, but we were able to take him home June 9th. He was 11 weeks old. I felt scared, but it was such a relief to get out of the hospital.
For the first 5 days of his life in the NICU, Elliot remained stable with minor exceptions. My family and I spent precious time with him. My daughters did not get to meet him because they weren't allowed in the NICU at the time. I was so content. But then, on June 3rd, 2017, when Elliot was 5 days old, I returned to his NICU room after a short nap to find the medical staff working on him. They said there was nothing they could do. His small lungs could not sustain his life. They placed him in my arms where he died at 5:56 p.m.
The day we got home with Joshua, we were busy getting everything set up, such as his feeding tube and his oxygen tank. He wasn't feeling well and was up most of the night, but I didn't even care because for the first time, I got to hold him all through the night and comfort him when he was in pain. Saturday morning, he came to my daughter's soccer game, and family and friends came and helped me clean the house and just get everything ready for this new chapter in our lives. And he was very lethargic, but we had him take a bath that night with his brother and sister. And after his bath, I took the last bandage off of him, and I just cried looking at him on my bed. I thought, finally, we're home. You're mine. I put him to bed that night and woke up at about 2 a.m., and I found Josh had stopped breathing. He was with Jesus.
Leaving the hospital without my baby was an assault on my motherhood. It was so wrong.
There aren't words to describe handing my baby to the coroner. It was such a final goodbye.
The funeral was an impossible thing for me to accept as reality. It felt like it was closure for many people, but for me it was just the beginning of my grief journey.
After the funeral, I felt isolated. All the flowers died, all the cards stopped coming. It felt like the world kept moving, but my world was frozen in place. I felt alone. A few weeks after Joshua died, 2 separate acquaintances mentioned a woman named Heidi who'd also lost a baby.
I was introduced to Ashley, who was also writing a blog about her experience.
We started writing one another and then decided to meet for coffee.
When I met Heidi for coffee, one of the questions I remember asking her is what Elliot looked like in the casket. I felt relieved there was someone I could ask a question like that to.
When Ashley and I would meet or write to one another, I felt hope that I could make it. In my loneliest times, I felt like I was going crazy with grief. But talking with Ashley helped me process my thoughts and feelings and alleviated some of the loneliness.
We would discuss things people did or said that bothered us, or things that really meant a lot to us. People who validated our grief and honored our babies by asking about them and saying their names always helped us feel like our babies weren't forgotten or invisible.
Our friendship also gave us a safe space to discuss how our grief was affecting our marriages and other relationships.
Men grieve the loss of their children just as deeply, but often express it differently. Our friendship helped us understand our husbands better.
The relationship Heidi and I have has given us a place to wrestle with our faith in light of our son's deaths.
It has been very important for me to have a person who doesn't judge my hard questions or dark emotions.
For those of you here who've lost babies, we want you to know you're not alone. We encourage you to utilize support groups, whether online or in person. And even if you never meet another parent who shares your story of loss, know someone has felt the things that you feel and understands what you're going through, even though each of our stories is unique.
Even if it's been years since losing your baby, it's not too late to find community and friendship. It's important for you to reach out to others and tell your baby's story. Your baby's story might be the one that helps another grieving parent heal. It can be hard to find purpose in the painful tragedy of losing a child,
But being there for someone else can give even a small sense of purpose.
Each one of our babies has left a legacy and motivates us to honor them in different ways. Our family has chosen to donate baskets of necessities to families whose babies are in the NICU.
I've found several meaningful ways to honor the legacies of my 3 babies in heaven, including writing a children's book, sharing my journey on my blog, and trying to support other moms facing the pain of infant loss and miscarriage.
Above all, please remember that even on your darkest days, you are not alone. Someone out there understands. Your story matters, your grief matters, and your baby matters.
please let this quote from Lexi Burnt, fellow infant loss mom, encourage you. On the days when no one but you mentions their names, I am so sorry. Say their names bravely. Know they are still real.
Thank you, Ashley and Heidi. We will be reading the names of all the babies we are honoring and remembering today. Reading the babies' names today are Danielle Reeves in memory of Aiden Thomas Clark Reeves, and James Marino in memory of Brooklyn K. Marino.
Isaac Matthew Ochtenberg. Hunter Colin Allerton. Adeline Grace Allerton. Oliver James Ayers. Nora Patricia Benning. Crystal Rose Pilonetta Burke. Aubrey Maria Bowman Shermer. Gregory Dale Boosman. Jeremiah Brage. Ariana Barbara Brennan. Linus Augustine Brennan. Michael Brenner. Gabriel Mason Broderick. Maeve Elizabeth Brown. Abigail Estelle Brown. Sage Christopher Bruncala Romero. Carson Rosemary Irene Brinner. Jamie Dawn Butler. Sean Eamon O'Connor. David John DJ Carlin. Lillian Rose Carlson. Eileen Rebecca Castro. Christopher Eric Castro. Silas Jack Clark.
Evelyn Louise Cox. Isla Pearl Cox. Kenna Marie Craig. Tanner Charles Krinkla. Audrey Javier Dakanai. Olivia Abigail Javier Dakanai. Cassandra Elizabeth Daniels. Ayana Faith Descent. Baby D Debate. Cash Eli Debate. Angel Dennison. Lillian Dennison. Josephine Marie DeVell. Dakota Rhea DeWin. Sawyer Jack Dillon. Natalie Catherine DeMauve. Emily Rose Drolshagen. Shelby Bird Epstein. Andres Gonzalez Escobar. John Anthony Fay II. Charlie Anthony Fisher. Joshua Lindsay Fogel. Bradley Paul Fashu. Joshua Toby Glader.
Megan Elizabeth Goldstein. Erica Grace Goldstein. Hope Goldstein. Faith Goldstein. Nathaniel Patrick Good. Samuel Alexander Good. Amelia Araceli Goodnow. Finn Levi Granger. Bryce Halen Graves. Phoenix Dwight Gravlin. Charlotte Luna Hadrick. Maddox Achilles Haggard. Adeline May Hall. Nicholas William Hall. Sky Margaret McKay Hannon. David Paul Harris. Ethan Robert Harris. Dallas Connolly Hensley. McKenna Christine Hensley. Emmett Jameson Height. Haley Marie Holt. Tyler John Holt. Little One Holt. Noah Lee Hotaling. Hale Benjamin Huber.
Zachary James Hughes. Maggie Josephine Hughes. Mary Elizabeth Hughes. Wyatt William Hunter. Lily Grace Jalufka. Nicholas Xavier Jonty. Daphne Christine Jones. Kevin Francis Kaufman. Hallie Jean Keller. Haven Piper King. Robert Matthew Kiskinis. Monroe Maxine Clockey. William Gustav Kurtz. Everett Reese Thomas Lale. Goldie Rhiannon Lassiter. Harper Ann LeBlanc. Chloe Faye Leonard. Carson John Lashinsky. Levi babies. Landon Ross Leiby. Edison Malcolm Long. Kennedy Harper Lorenzo. Brooklyn K. Marino. Kenneth Michael Moorer. Colvin Timothy Lee McGrath.
Stetson Rhett Meyer. Jamie Lynn Mazzara. Romy Patricia Mitchell. Isaiah Wayne Montgomery. Carter Dale Ferris. Baby Moody. Colin Mason Moody. Josephine Veronica Murphy. Mia Murphy. Maddox Alexander Nagwai. Kellen Abraham Naljian. Leonardo Alexander Nikayan. Paula Joe Nicholson. Rebecca Lynn Rockwood. Carter Scott Ninmer. Baby Yaskob. Cameron Michael Obert. Charles Edison Orr. Jude Ryan Orr. Clark Addison Orr. Curtis Mark Owens. Baby Owens. Emma Catherine Paget. Bethany Grace Peden. Baby Peden.
Francis Pittman. Mary Abigail Pittman. Isabella Pizzonia. Paisley May Poppy. Elishua Nicholas Portillo. Colson Matthew Price. Connor Michael Quinn. Grace Quinn. Riley Dakota Radcliffe. Jordan Athena White. Brittany Rochelle Reber. Aiden Thomas Clark Reeves. Parker Riley. Bentley Riley. Liam Sterling Renwans. Jesse Lee Richards. Jonathan David Richards. Sarah Beth Richards. Peter James Richardson Fournier. Nathan Robert Rimmerman. Caleb Glenn Rimmerman. Alexander Christian Roberts. Nicole Marie Robinson. Olivia Elizabeth Harris. Angelica Lene Rogers.
Haven Skylar Rose. Lillian Mari Gomez. Zayden M. Ruiz. Joel Raymond Ryan. Madison Jean Salazar. Baby Salazar. Melanie Jewel Shalaller. Celeste Schisler. Journey Schlenker. Kevin Patrick Scullin. Samantha Amy Marguerite Sievert. Sadie Rose Sizemore. Alexander Jedediah Smith. Zoe Marie Smith. Carissa Lynn Solorzano. Aaron Spencer. Emerson Riley Stallings. Charlotte Joanne Stevens. Aaliyah Hazel Stratton. Declan Liam Sullivan. Maurice James Lee Summers. Baby Thompson. Landon Cade Thompson. Damian Michael Calais Thompson. Baby Thompson.
Elliot William Tribal. Everett James Tribal. Avery Rose Tribal. Charles James C.J. Trinkle. Tucker Anthony Troyer. Isabel Ray Tudor. Mallory Alexis Underwood. Mark David Van Vuren. Grace Ellen Vetter. Owen Nathaniel Vick. Jackson Marcus Vincent. Owen Lee Walden. Cora Anastasia Walden. Caleb Ridge Warren. Chloe Elizabeth Warren. Aria Reese Watkins. Christy May Winhandle. Dexter Reese Weller. Bodie Finn Welnack. Lakin Grace West. Gabriel Lucas Reed Whited. Cairo Jeremy Allen Whittington. Angel Darlene Lynn Whittle. Ensley June Williams. Noah Graham Williams. Caius Patrick Thorin Williams.
Eloise Margaret Smith. Logan Michael Wills. Baby Wisniewski. Baby Wisniewski. Lola Grace Wood. Emma K. Wood. Baby number 1 Wood. Brooklyn May Zemer. Vanishing twin of Lola. Morgan Brooke.
Thank you, Danielle and James. In your journey, you may have felt isolated and alone, but know that we walk here united and we stand with you to honor and show remembrance to your baby. Once you have watched the virtual walk, we encourage you to do something special in remembrance of your baby. Take a walk in a special place. Go to the cemetery or do something special that reminds you of your baby. I am pleased to welcome back to the stage Billy Lloyd singing Tears in Heaven.
saw you in heaven, will it be the same? If I saw you in heaven, I must be strong and carry on, 'cause I know I don't belong here in heaven. Would you hold my hand if I saw you in heaven? Would you help me stand if I saw you in heaven? I'll find my way through night and day, 'cause I know I just can't stay here in heaven. Time can bring you down, time can bend your knee. Time can break your heart, have you begging please, begging please, yeah. Beyond the door, there's peace, I'm sure, and I know there'll be no more tears in heaven. Would you know my name if I saw you in heaven? Will it be the same if I saw you in heaven? I must be strong and carry on, 'cause I know I don't belong here in heaven, 'cause I know I don't belong